Hey guys, welcome to the STF Wargaming Studio and another video featuring Guild Ball. We're looking at Ratcatchers. It's Pelage. Strictly the worst did actually spoil some of these goods a few days ago, but we thought we'd chime in a couple of pretty pictures and thoughts of our own as well. And this lady is certainly something different to have a look at. Just take care, the rats, or as likely heard, might just claw your eyes out. The model is painted by Angel Giraldez, who's done an amazing job, and you really should have a look at him on the Facebooks, and you'll find a link in the description. When I saw this model announced at SteamCon UK, I kind of wondered if this was the type of model that would be something along the lines of maybe Siren, Cosset, or maybe something very different, but I suspected there might be something in that direction. I would say that neither is really true. I'm perhaps leaning more towards Cosset, but she's not Cosset, certainly not, but she is her very unique kind of crazy and seductive and dangerous in definitely her own kind of way. But let's get to the juicy stuff. Her card. And here it is in all its glory. Now let's start off with the basics, shall we? It's a human, female, Airiskiri, it's a central midfielder. We have a move of 6-8, we have attack of 5, we have a kick of 3-6, a 5-0 defense, 2-4 influence, 1-inch melee, and 10 health. That's a low health. But that doesn't mean she's helpless and will be a very easy target. But let's get into that a little later, shall we? So first of all, playbook. So we have momentous results across the board from starting at a momentous dodge. We have a momentous single out, very interesting. We'll get back to that a bit later too as well. Momentous 2 on 3, and a momentous double dodge on 4, and a momentous 3 on 5. We also have some non-momentous results, both on 1, 2, and 4. And will be 1 damage, a tackle on 2, which is fairly respectable, and a double push on 4. Not one that is really counter-attack worthy, but it's still pretty good, and certainly something that shouldn't be ignored. It can be very useful in some cases if you want a good reposition. And with the singled out, she might actually get to that 4 a little easier than maybe you'd like to think. So then we have the back of the card, which is quite packed with information. So let's have a close look at this, shall we? We have Cloak of Rats, that's a 2-inch aura, so at the end of this model's activation, the opposing player must choose one of the following enemy models within the aura suffer the snared condition, or enemies within this aura suffer 3 damage. A very solid dilemma here, and the 3 damage to everyone involved can also be pretty detrimental. So it is an interesting choice you have to make there. I look forward to see how that plays out. Then you have the next one, Dark Allure. Playbook results that include damage that hits this model do not generate momentum points. Now here we have something that is an interesting little tidbit to see. Grim Caress. Each time enemy model ends an activation engaging this model, the enemy model suffers 3 damage. It essentially means that anyone that can hit her will actually have taken some damage. But of course, it also is the end of activation, so if you can one-round this person or Pelage, you won't take the 3 damage at the end. Of course, you have generated no momentum doing this, so it is, well, it influenced an interesting little way of dissuading people from hitting the model, but not necessarily if they have to take her out, they probably will. But at a 5-0, then they generally have to work on it at least somewhat. So it depends then if they think it's worth the influence they have to spend on it. And finally, we have Killer Male. +1 damage to playbook damage results when making an attack against the models of the named type. She then actually becomes a fairly dangerous little individual with a 3 damage on 3 and a singled out on a 2, meaning she gets that 3 damage fairly consistently, certainly after the first attack. And with a little setup, she can probably hit like a truck at 4 plus little plus whatever, and probably 4 plus singled out on the charge. Or maybe even 4 plus 3, so 7 damage on the charge, which is pretty respectable. And Cosset would be proud. How do we play this little lady? Alright, so first of all, what stands out is singled out. It is singled out for the morticians that isn't on dirge. It's one of our mortician players here that generally very often talks about this. He would love to have singled out, but putting the influence on dirge seems to be a waste with 2 tack. But here you have Pelage on 5 tack and a single out on 2. So that's very attractive by that alone for good setup play in towards either a charge in by, well, almost anything from Graves to, well, to Cosset for that matter. And she can do a very respectable amount of damage out of this. Or a respectable amount of setup. That is something that the morticians not necessarily are lacking, but they can certainly always use a little more. And lastly, one thing that I did look at, which she actually can probably now bring to the morticians, is, well, she won't be an alternative to Bonesaw, but she certainly can play a similar role without being so Bonesaw. She has a fairly good speed, basically at move of 8, sprint of 8, and a 3-6 kick makes it fairly reliable. But what I also look at especially there is that she has a momentous dodge on 1. That is something that is not very common to see in morticians, and very valuable, especially if you want to do a charge in, jump off that model and maybe do a goal. But also very interestingly, she has that doing a charge, and she has on 4 hits a momentous double dodge. That is really interesting that she can use. Then charge in, do a good hit, and bounce off mostly anyone, and actually get away with it, and be at 16 to 18 inches of threat, and that is something morticians really have not really been able to have properly, with the exception of perhaps Scalpel and Bonesaw on a very good day. But regardless, I think she is an interesting model that we need to have to see how it works really into the team, and exactly how she'll work out. I guess it's a little playstyle thing, but I think she can actually come into the team quite neatly, providing in particular singled out and actually a type of, I know, semi-striker kind of abilities. Maybe she'll do more the setup role in general, but she certainly can do her goal run if she has a little influence and well, not necessarily a lot of setup she needs herself, and that's also something that's interesting. But I look forward to seeing this one, and really, guys, there you have it. It's Pelage, and we will just see how she turns out, and I look forward to it. And as always, guys, you can support us on Patreon using the link in the description below. You can, of course, share, like, and subscribe. And as always, support your hobby.